programs. People come in, they'll do various programs from airplane mechanic to different jobs in the medical field. They'll train 6 week, 8 week, or 3 months, and they get placed in jobs that are paying $20, $25, and $30 an hour. So I've lived this and understand this, and I think what happens is too many people, whether it's our soldiers or everyday people, are they get in, they don't look hard enough, they don't see what's out there, they end up settling for jobs that really don't pay a lot. So we need to have a hub, a center that people can trust and can count on, where when they know that they're going to walk in, that there's going to be a path that's going to lead to a job that they will be interested in, that will pay them what we would call a real living wage.
Another question from the audience, and I apologize because this may be not congressional, but I will still ask the question. What can you do for property tax help for veterans?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a tough question because the property tax is most of the work is on a county-wide level. So one of the things that you could possibly do is, again, it comes back to grants, it comes back to receiving federal funds versus putting the burden on our soldiers and, of course, everyday people. This is a question I would say when we go and knock on doors, that's the number one question people always ask us, what are we going to do about the property taxes? And the reality is it's a county-wide level. One of the things we can do is, again, the state of Illinois ranks 45th in the country when it comes to receiving federal funds. And we've got to fight harder. And, I know our congressman isn't here right now, but, between him and his dad to be ranked 45th, that's terrible. We need more federal funds, and we have to make sure to allocate those federal funds. And if we can get those funds, that's how we're able to decrease the property tax. But to me, it's very important that you have to be honest and transparent to the people you're speaking with. I would say it'd be very difficult. It'll take years. It's something that I'm going to fight for. I'm pretty sure Mike will fight for that as well. But the reality is, man, when it comes to property tax, they got it pretty locked down heavy here on a county level. And for us to make the real change, it's going to take some fighting, but I'm ready to fight.
I know at our county the exemption for veterans last year, I think, when that went up, we almost doubled the amount of veterans that were eligible to take the exemption, which was a good thing. But Rush is right, you got to look at the numbers, and all of a sudden it hits the county pretty hard when we give more exemptions. And it is very easy to say, let's just cut everybody's taxes. Now, we did it at the county by cutting out the waste. But at some point, it gets pretty hard to cut. We have to look at the school districts and the other taxing bodies for where our tax numbers come from. But again, and I go back to the grant, the only way that we can really help in a lot of these different departments at the county level, at the municipal level, is to get grants from the federal government. And Rush is right. Our state has been lacking in what we get compared to a lot of other states. So basically, we pay more than we get back, and that's not a good thing. Now, the state has to do a better job with their finances as well, because that also hurts us. And some of the things they want to do more is even tax us more. We just had a tax put on for gas with the state. We had a tax put on at Will County. I voted against that. But that hurts seniors, it hurts vets, it hurts everybody that has their fixed income or they're living off of a disability. Their income doesn't automatically go up because they just got hit with those kinds of numbers. So we do have to find a way to be able to reduce the property tax so that some of these other taxes that come into play don't affect you overall.
If the two of you don't mind, being a mayor, I'm fairly familiar with property tax. You don't mind, I'll tackle this one a little bit. Just to give people some education on property taxes. So property taxes are levied by your local taxing bodies, so the Village of Orland Park, the Orland Township, the school district here, 230, 135, the fire district, and you'll see that in the county and Forest Preserve in the county and all those things. You'll see that 80% of your taxes are the three school districts, District 230, District 135, Moraine Valley, and the fire district are over 80% of your taxes. So, and what I want people to understand about exemptions for property tax, because there's always this push at the state level, not the federal level, but there's state reps, they give exemptions. They increase the exemptions to seniors, which makes you feel good if you're a senior. Great. There is an exemption for veterans, police officers, and firemen who are disabled. They get a complete exemption from their property taxes. But I want everyone to understand how exemptions work. If Orland Park levies $10 million, we don't levy a tax rate, we levy a fixed dollar amount, $10 million. The pie is $10 million. If you get an exemption, you come out of the part of the pie. So that, whatever your portion was, now gets spread to your neighbors, gets spread to everybody else. So the thought of, and you hear this a lot, you hear this from different groups, you hear this from veterans groups, senior groups, a lot of different groups that, well, we should get an exemption, we should get an exemption. I just want you to understand that when you get that exemption, your neighbors and your friends pay that portion that you were otherwise paying. So it's not like the money just goes away somewhere, it gets spread to your friends and it gets spread to your neighbors. So as a veteran, I'm able-bodied, I'm not disabled. Personally, I don't look for a property tax exemption. Yeah, we all want to see our property taxes lowered, I do too. But an exemption, because I'm a veteran, just burdens all of my neighbors, and I didn't fight to burden all my neighbors. Maybe that's my personal opinion, but just so that you understand how those exemptions work, because I think sometimes people just think, oh, we get the exemption, we don't pay it, but somebody else is still paying it. Somebody else is still paying it. It could be the person right next door. I mean, in fact, it is the person right next door that's paying some of that. All of the other residents are paying part of that share. So.
And I want to add something, and it might be, you might be saying, well, Rush, goodness, we know this already, but I'll throw it out there. I have a home in Pamela Hills. I don't know about you guys, but when I get my property tax, like twice a year, I admit it, like I get teary-eyed. Like, wow, this is so expensive. It's pretty depressing. But finally, I decided to look into getting it reassessed. Like, I got somebody to help us out with that, to do like a property reassessment. And, it wasn't a lot, but we saved 3%. And, everything helps. And I know, again, a lot of people might say, well, Rush, why are you even sharing this? We know this, but for somebody who may not know that, if you really feel that, you're looking at your property tax and you're like, man, this is crushing us, the very least I would take that step and see if you can get your property reassessed, and hopefully you can save a couple bucks.
So another question that I have is, not unlike the country, not unlike the state, and even at the local level, entitlements, and I know there'll be a question of whether entitlements are something that's been earned or not earned, but I would say anything that's a reasonable return is earned, anything above that becomes an entitlement because somebody else is paying for that. Entitlements are crushing our military budget. When I left, it was 35%. It was 30 to 35% of the budget. It's got to be up 35 to 40% of the budget now. I mean, think about that. When we have airplanes that are, and ships that are well beyond their useful life and still being used, there's no money for capital to replace that equipment because it's being crushed by the entitlements that we have. What would you do to help solve those problems for the future so that the military can stay competitive and not have the entitlements associated with the military, as much as we want to obviously provide a good pay and everything else, but we have to make sure that those don't crush our ability to actually do what the first and foremost goal of the military is, to protect the country.
For me, I'll be honest with you. I think when it comes to the issue of entitlement and in terms of how we allocate, in terms of our military spending and to be competitive, I'll be straight with you and say that I don't have, all the exact answers. I will say this though, and I think maybe you and I may differ in this area. I think that we need to be fiscally responsible when it comes to how much we do spend on military weapons. I believe that we have to make sure we defend our country. We have to make sure that we are the strongest, and we are. We spend 18 times more than the second leading country, which I think, this is great. However, I believe to be competitive, I would still say let's take a closer look and make sure that when it comes to, the military and the type of weapons we have, if there's an opportunity to look at different ways we can allocate and give some of the money to our veterans and have better services for them, I would rather take it that route than worrying so much, which I think we do. And again, I know there might be some different opinions here, but I think it's important to talk about it, that we have to continue spending on our military, but I also think we need to be fiscally responsible and see if we can invest more on the soldiers who are coming home versus investing a little too much on some of the weapons that maybe we're not using.
I guess I differ a little bit. Since I didn't have to serve, those that serve and protect me, I want them to have the best there is out there. Whatever the newest technology is, whatever keeps them the safest, whatever gets the conflict over the quickest, that's what I want them to have. I think it's a problem with the overall budget. We just need to start cutting out the waste. I don't care what budget it is, you can look at any budget, not yours, Mayor, there's probably no waste in your budget. But when we did that at a county, I went line by line and just find where the waste is so that you can put it toward the programs that the people need, that give you the best results. But I would not take that out of the military budget. And I still think we need more for the veterans, but I would not take that out of the military budget.
So I'm gonna ask a little follow-on and give you some background on that. So 1988, the plane that I flew started to roll off of the line brand new. So 1989, when I entered the military, by the time I arrived, the airplanes were rolling off the line. They were brand new. They weren't even all built yet. So we had two squadrons of training, 2 squadrons of operation. So we only had probably 80 or 40% of what ended up being the total fleet. But at that time, we were replacing F4s, we were replacing F-111s, and that were being mothballed because they were 25 to 28 years old. So let's just say, for simple math, 1990, okay? 1990, go ahead now, 30 years. So all of the planes that I flew are 30 years old or older. And they're talking now about keeping it in the fleet until 2050 for a fighter, which gets very bent and historically has been rolled off in 25 years. So now we're talking about something that's going to be in place for 60 years, and because they're not being replaced. So to that point, our soldiers are going out into battle with. The joke is now that the joke was when I started, the F4s that were rolling off the line. We schedule 4 to start 3, to take off with 2, and come back with 1 that can come back to go to the next flight. And they're in the same boat now. So the fleet is getting very old. And I speak for the Air Force because I know the Air Force, but the Navy's no different. We have ships out there that are extremely old. We have tanks that are extremely old. Well, how do we get those? What do we do to ensure that our troops have the best, so they're not coming back with the issues and the injuries and all of those different things, so that it's not as expensive to take care of?
Well, again, the technology changes. You probably all have one of these, or know somebody that has one of these. It's 11 years old. It has more computer technology than the guys that went to the moon. That kind of technology has to be updated even faster these days. So we do have to update, and capital is a big expense. Work with that every day at the county. It's a big expense, and you have to plan for it. We established a capital replacement plan, which they never had at the county. How would you think that you're going to replace things? You just wait till they break, which is almost what you're saying, Keith. They're at that point, or almost wait till they break. We have to have a capital replacement plan in the works. That should be part of the budget for the military, so that we can start rolling these pieces out as they hit a useful life, which is a reasonable useful life, not 60 years. And so that's why I say we can't take that budget back for the military. If anything, we may have to increase it. So it's not that you're just throwing money at it, so that you're keeping everything updated. And as I said earlier, it gives us the ability to go into an area, hopefully squelch the conflict quicker, safer for our people. That's what we need in the military budget.
Efficiency matters to me, and I agree with you that if there are weapons, if there's planes, we have to make sure that we are able to update what needs to be updated. And like I said, Mr. Mayor, to me, I want to be respectful, because I admit I don't have, point, where we are with the military budget. But to me, efficiency matters. And, the way I look at things is from a different angle. And I think our country needs to be very efficient, especially when it comes to the wars that we get involved in. And I think for me, as your next congressman, yes, of course, we have to be efficient with our military, but I think we have to be even more smart when it comes to who we get involved with, where we send our troops, and how much money we're going to allocate to get involved in these conflicts that I think, as of late, I don't think we've been successful. So I think this is, for me, I look at the big picture. And the big picture means that we have to be able to protect our soldiers and provide for the ones who served, but also make sure that, again, we are efficient with how much money we allocate when it comes to military spending, especially when we're talking about weapons.
Thank you. I've received another question, and it's not military or veteran related, so I'm not going to ask it. And it also is not related to...
Mr. Mayor, there's veterans that need assistance with ambulances and stuff in that area. So if veterans need assist, if they call 911, they can't, the ambulance can't get to them because the trains are blocking the tracks over there for over a half hour, clearly in Garfield Ridge, and he should be familiar with that from Garfield Ridge. So there are soldiers, veterans out there.
Sir, if you have a question specifically around veterans and around that issue, write it out. I'll be happy to ask that question. This question does not ask that question, and it's not your turn to engage these candidates with this.
Sorry, sir.
I will moderate this because we don't want it to be a debate. We don't want it to be an argument. It's not an open town hall. That's the format that we set up
Thank
here.
you.
So if you have a question regarding that, I'm sure that Darryl will be happy to give you a card, and I'd be happy to ask it. So I have another question. Veterans' mental health services are essential in order to help our return vets. I think we'd all agree on that. For both their combat experiences and the mental health issues associated with military service. This is personal for me. My cousin, same age as me, and one of my best friends, was on the USS Iowa 30 years ago when the turret exploded, 47 soldiers were killed. He didn't talk about that issue to me, and we're pretty close. And we're both military. We're the only military members in our family. And he never talked to me about it until about 3 years ago. And he happened to be, for anyone who doesn't know about that particular situation, the captain ordered the doors shut, and sailors were killed. Because had he not done that, the turret would have exploded and might have killed everyone on board. My cousin was 20 feet from that door when that order was given. And he was just a young ensign. He was 22 years old. And I can tell you it had an impact that he struggled with for a long time. So what can you do to help our veterans overcome the stigmas associated with going to seek out the mental health issues they may have coming back from a combat environment?
As I said earlier, I think giving the veterans the ability to seek out help wherever they need it, not just at the VA hospital. I hate to keep referring to it, but my co-worker's friend is having a mental problem right now. They asked him to go for a sleep study this weekend, and on Thursday he totally freaked out about it. Started drinking and was starting to talk crazy, and so my friend Gene had to go over there and calm him down. Those kinds of things are going to happen, especially when put in that situation where you have to do something and then the demons come out. I think it needs to be a situation like in the Mission Act where if you need to see somebody right now, you need to have the ability to go as close to your home as you can, have a family member with you, instead of some appointment 5 days later that you have to think about for 5 days. We have to give that vet the ability to seek help right away. So, and I think as far as the financial component of that, again, by giving grants out to, like Will County, to our health department, specifically for those needs, it allows us to provide more services to anybody, but vets are included in that.
I agree with Mike. I mean, I think this might be the first former Republican and a Democrat sit next to each other, and we're saying, hey, we're on the same page with this. You know, we gotta take care of our veterans, we gotta take care of our soldiers who come home. I think the key, it's really one word, it's access. You know, we have to make sure that, yes, that they have the proper coverage, and I think there's nothing wrong with saying that, hey, we need to make sure that it's not just veterans where they have to go to a specific hospital. They should have access to the best care possible. And I think this is something we have to acknowledge, and we have to make sure to extend it. And you know, I know we're going to open up an issue here that you know, I know it's a hot topic around the country, but that's why I believe that, you know, we should have the insurance. If you're happy with the insurance that you have, you should be able to keep it. But that's why I think we need to have a government option that's available as an extra option for when our soldiers come back, that, you know, they have an extra set of insurance so they can go to any doctor they need to go to. And then they can get the access that they need, no matter what type of situation it is, whatever's any type of mental health situation that they're in, that they're going to get help ASAP. And again, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is a human rights issue.
So, the final question, unless somebody gives me another one, is that veterans sometimes struggle with being able to get emergency services due to trains, due to other infrastructure issues that may exist. What would you do to help that situation?
Well, we got to give them the benefits, because right now, transportation infrastructure in the 3rd District, transportation specifically, is a problem, because too many people in our district don't have the right access to get around. You know, we have train service in many areas just the weekend only. So this is a situation where soldiers and the citizens of the 3rd District, we need to have more transportation options available to them. And we need to have, if we have more even options where we have train station availability that can go into the suburbs, more people have access to work. So this is something to me that it's for our soldiers and for everyday people to make sure that we have more options available to them. And I think if you have more transportation options, there'll also be more work options as well. No matter where you live, you can have access to a job. And I think this is something that's important for the soldiers, but I also think it's important for everybody in the district as well.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've sat on Archer Road,
Thank you.
55th Street, and
He missed it.
Central Avenue many times in my life. I was younger, you know, out partying maybe, but I sat there many, many times in my life. I know it's a big issue, not only there, but it is out in our area too. And the one thing I will say, and if you read history, I'm not a train buff, but I read some history on it, watched a lot of shows about it. The railroads were granted all kinds of control of their lands. We're having an issue right now, although it seems it's finally resolved in Will County. There's going to be a new bridge built over to connect to 80 so that the big truck facility out there can get trucks over. And all they were doing was going over the railroad. And it took 2 years to get the railroad to agree to let a bridge go over it. And the thing is, there's almost nobody you can talk to anywhere, even the federal government, because they granted them laws that are in perpetuity. But I do know there is a fight going on right now to limit train times, and it's been going on for a while.
Shorter trains and faster, that's what I thought.
Exactly. Well, exactly. But I would definitely push so that we don't have that issue. I would fight that fight. We have it out in our area. We're fighting that right now to make sure that we can kind of put the hammer on those guys so we're not restricting access. And if we do, and there's no way to solve that issue of restricted access, then we need to look for funds to do overpasses. That's what it comes down to.
Thank you both for coming tonight. I know it's not, probably not the crowd you were looking for, but we do have engaged people, the 12, 15 people that are here that are very engaged, and additionally, obviously the weather was pretty tough, so thank you for, I know Rush, you came further than Mike did, but both of you for coming tonight. Well, you're Payless Hills, you're not that much further.
I don't know if there's final words. I just want to say
You're both gonna get final words. So
I guess I'll jump in.
So you get
short and sweet, and thank you for this opportunity. make no mistake, serving your country in war is 50,000 levels higher than I think serving as a congressman, because that's where, to me, the ultimate risk is, the ultimate sacrifice for your country. But I want you to know that I'm doing this as a proud American because I want to serve everyone. I want to serve our soldiers, the ones who are going to serve, but also, as mentioned, we talked about this a lot today. The soldiers that are home right now, we have to serve them as well and make sure that we offer them the best benefits available. So I want to thank you all, and this opportunity means the world to me that you gave an opportunity for me to listen to me and hear what I have to say. And Rep. Lipinski just walked in. I guess you've heard of the saying, better late than never, Rep. Lipinski. Good to see you. And March 17th, I hope I earned your vote. Thank you.
And I too want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I know it is kind of cruddy out there with the snow and all. But I 7 years ago decided that it was my time to serve my community, and I did that in Will County, and I'm continuing to do that, and certainly won't shirk any of my duties throughout all of this political campaign. But I just thought it was time to step up and have some different representation for our community out here. It is a diverse community, as we all know. It goes from Lockport all the way out to Bridgeport. So there are a lot of different kinds of dynamics and demographics. But one thing I always think is key, and that's the family. And I think throughout that whole territory, you'll find out it's just made of good, hard-working families. They're just trying to get ahead in life and make it better for their children. That's what I've always done. That's what I figure when I get to Congress we'll be doing, is making it better for the families. Thank you.